Okay. So, ninth chapter, first verse. So, ninth in the eighth chapter, we saw how he is trying to explain Akshara Brahma. What is this indivisible Brahman? And then he reminds Arjuna about the situation at the time of death. Only when we know or think about our mortality, only when we realize our mortality, will we start going deeper and thinking about our true nature. Somewhere in our head, we think we are immortal. That is why we are ready to postpone things. அப்புறம் பண்ணிக்கலாம், நாளைக்கு பண்ணிக்கலாம், அடுத்த வருஷம் பண்ணிக்கலாம், 10 வருஷத்துக்கு அப்புறம் பண்ணிக்கலாம், வயசான அப்புறம் பண்ணிக்கலாம். I'll do it when I'm 60, I'll do it when I'm 70. The age of 25, 20 or 25, somebody is going for yatras and going to temples. Why are you doing this at such a young age? You should do it when you're 60, 70. At 60, 70, you got your knees are paining, you can't walk anywhere, you can't sit in one place for long. So why we do this is because somewhere in our heads, we think that we are going to live till 60, we are going to live till 70, we are going to live till 80, right? As we age, we think we are still going to live for much longer. It's definitely a good thing. There is hope that we're going to live. Ayushman Bhava அப்படின்னு சொல்லி தான் பெரியவாள்லாம் they give ஆசீர்வாதம். Right? May you be filled with life, Ayuhu. But then it should not get to our head. We really start believing it. And the problem that sorry Mama,
ஆயுஷ்மான் பவன் சொல்லிடுறா, ஆனா எவ்வளோன்னு சொல்லலவா.
they don't, there's no quality quantity mentioned there. Correct. And we like to believe that it's very long and it gets to our head. And somewhere, although we know we are not immortal, but then the feeling with which we live is almost like that, right? Anything we want to fix, we want to do, we'll always postpone, we'll move it to the. So like Jiddu Krishnamurti says, if you know the source of suffering, like what Buddha went through, and you see suffering around and you see how people are in so much conflict and you yourself are in so much conflict, if the truth of it really hits you, truth of it hits you, knowing yourself becomes the most urgent thing. It is of ultimate urgency. Nothing can wait for that, which is how Buddha also went, right? He went because he felt it was urgent. He had to leave his family. He didn't know whether he's going to come back, whether he's going to get whatever he's searching for. He didn't know. It was not like, okay, I'll come back in 8 years, I'll be enlightened. There's one Swamiji say this. There's a guy who read a lot of Indian scriptures and books and all of that and went to Himalayas, and he learned that in Himalayas there are many sadhus. So he took a 1 month vacation from office and he said, let me go to the Himalayas. And he found us, he went up to a hill, and in one kutir up the hill, he found a kutir, and there he found a sadhu sitting. And he went and told the sadhu, he saw him and he was very impressed with the sadhu, and he said, I want to learn what it means by self-realization. I want to realize myself. Then the sadhu looked at him, he said, okay. And then he said, but I have come on a 1 month vacation, so I have only 1 month time. Can I realize in 1 month? Can I attain self-realization in 1 month? So this is where our head is also. A lot of times that urgency is important to recognize, but then like Buddha, why this example is saying that Buddha didn't go with a finite time saying that, okay, it took him about 8 years to get to enlightenment. Okay, from the time he left his home, the palace, and he came back, it was roughly about 8 years. But it's not that he knew upfront that it's going to take him 8 years, right? It's not a set plan. So he went with that intensity, and it took that much amount of time for it to blossom and become what that individual became. From Siddhartha, Gautama Siddhartha, he became Gautama Buddha. So that, like Jiddu Krishnamurti says, that urgency, if you see that, then this will become the most urgent thing within you. Now, you don't have to necessarily go around telling people, no, 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 this is the most urgent thing. I'm not going to focus on anything. If you are in a family, you have relationships, you have responsibilities, you do that. But then within, psychologically, we should acknowledge this is the most urgent thing for me. This is the most urgent thing. And that will come when there is a certain recognition of the current state of my mortality, that I am not immortal. And so I need to attain to this understanding right now. There is no tomorrow, there is no postponing. So in the 8th chapter, all of this is presented, and his idea of mortality is shown to him. And now he goes on to say in chapter 9, he presents to him what is known as the Raja Vidya, the Guhyatamam Guhyam, which means the most secrets of all secrets. He says, this I am telling you because you are giving me a listening ear. You are in a mode of receiving. Hence, I am imparting this knowledge to you. What is Bhagavan Uvacha Idam tu te guhyatamam pravakshyami anasuyave, because you are not envious of me. You are not envious of me. You don't நீ மட்டும் என்ன are you a big are you something big that you are telling me? Or see, a lot of times what happens is we if we in the path of knowledge and understanding, we find somebody who's much more understanding than us, there is a possibility of some envy also setting in, right? Because you see that this person is talking sense, is making sense, and he seems to understand, he seems to be knowing of things. And so there is this kind of a mindset that may set. But Krishna is recognizing that Arjuna is not in that state of mind. He is truly listening. He is truly listening to what I am saying. Jnanam vijnana sahitam yajnatva mokshase ashubhat. It releases you from the miseries of ashubha. This material existence is recognized as ashubha, right? And it will, this jnana vijnanam. Jnanam and vijnanam means, jnanam means knowledge, vijnanam is special knowledge. Vijnanam, vishesha jnanam. Vishesha jnanam becomes vijnanam. And he's saying jnanam and vijnanam because he's saying all kinds of knowledge, yajnatva, by knowing this jnanam and vijnanam, which means understanding of it intellectually and also experientially. We have to understand this intellectually first, which is your mananam, and then you understand it through nididhyasanam, you understand it experientially. Yat jnatva means by knowing which, mokshasi ashubhat, from ashubha, which means from the inauspiciousness you get release. Inauspicious means what? Inauspicious is all of this suffering, anxieties, all of that we go through are all inauspiciousness, because it causes suffering, pain, angst. It keeps us tied down. Then he says in the next one, keeps you tied down. So this knowledge will release you from all of this. See, which is why when we study Vedanta or Bhagavad Gita or any of these scriptural works, which is particularly Upanishadic in nature. Upanishads mean that which is gives you the knowledge of your own self, our own self. So that when this is spoken about, it does not talk about changing anything on the outside. Nothing on the outside will change. Everything that needs to change will only be on the inside, right? And but a lot of times for a lot of people it's very difficult also to recognize that, because this can also take you into a different kind of a depressive mind state, saying that, oh, I am the cause of all problems, is it? A lot of people go into that kind of a zone, a depressive zone, I say, yeah, yeah, I am the problem of everything. I don't, I'm not worthy of anything. I'm always like this, so on and so forth. So it's essentially belittling oneself. This mindset is also a so we have to be careful where Vedanta is applied, right? Vedanta has to be applied to a sound mind, a mind that is discerning, a mind that is sharp, which is why of the four, what is called as sadhana chatushtaya, the first one is viveka, then vairagya, then samadhi, shatka sampatti. So the viveka and vairagya are most important in terms of being able to get into. Then mumukshatvam. Mumukshatvam comes as the last one, the desire for moksha. But initially you start off with certain amount of discrimination, discernment. And you've seen something here is not working right. Something here is causing, whatever you do, how much enna kutti karnam potalum solvale, enna whatever you do, any amount of jugglery, circus you do, things don't work the way I want it to work. Things have its own way of nature of behaving. People have their own nature of behaving. Some people I have trusted for so long suddenly behave in a certain way. Somebody who's been with me for so long is suddenly now reacting differently. All of this, right? So you come to this certain discernment that there's nothing on the outside that can, or rather it keeps changing. So even if we think we take a lot of effort to change something on the outside, it will again change, because change is the nature of things. So it will change again. If you change things in a way that you like it, you're comfortable, what is the guarantee it will stay that way? Or even if that stays, we also change from within. So the same thing that I liked in this way for 10 years, suddenly it doesn't give me any joy. That would exist in the same way. I don't like it anymore. Why? Because something inside is now changing. And when you look at all of this, then you realize that uh, the approach of changing anything there is not going to work. So he says, now you are non-envious of me. You are not carrying any, see, which is very important. Bhagavan Krishna, remember, is very carefully giving out this knowledge only when he realizes that Arjuna is ready to receive it. This is also very important. See, one way of seeing this is that, okay, let's share knowledge freely. Let people pick up whatever they want to pick up. Right? That's one way of looking at things. But like I said, there is also this risk. If people are not able to discern clearly, for example, somebody who's struggling for a day's worth of meal or a day's meal, if you go and talk to him Vedanta, he'll slap you. It's obscene. It's obscene to go and talk Vedanta to somebody who's struggling through the day to make a few pennies to get a day's meal. All we can do is help him to get a day's meal. That's all we can do. There we should not go and teach Vedanta, right? What is there? Everything is Maya, everything is, or you are part of Brahman, you are part of Paramatma, you are just Jivatma. Right? The growling stomach doesn't understand Vedanta. So that is why it has to go into a receiving recipient, a recipient who's receiving, not although we go and share it, we will say that, it's open knowledge and all of that. This risk is there. Which risk? People may also become, like he's saying, that you are, because if you read this, a lot of times you'll say you are nothing, you have no this thing, anyways, it's all mine, Krishna's doing, and all of that. So people can also take wrong messages out of this and apply it wrongly to their lives. And this can cause a lot of disharmony in their environment. Everything Krishna is doing, everything Krishna is doing now, they will use it conveniently. Right? Krishna is doing everything, yes, but are you totally established in that understanding? If then the good and the bad and everything is Krishna. But you want only comforts, discomforts you don't want. So anything that's discomforting and you don't want to change your comfort, you'll say, Krishna is giving me this comfort. So what? But Krishna is also giving you the discomfort. No, why don't you take that with the equal understanding? No. So there is a possibility of misusing this understanding if we don't have that discernment and mumukshatvam. Because this is a moksha shastra, that mumukshatvam has to be established. That what the urgency, previous chapter of mortality that Bhagavan establishes, that needs to be established, and hence there is an urgency for what? For understanding this eternal, this indivisible, unchanging that is there, that I'm recognizing. I want to understand that. And there is a relationship that I have with that. And then we come here. And then he's saying, now I will give you the Raja Vidya. See, that is why in this particular verse, Bhagavan Krishna tells him, I shall impart Anasuyave, non-NBS. Because you are non-NBS, I will impart this to you. So he is qualifying Arjuna's state of mind at that time. I am not chumma giving you because currently you are in a state of receiving. Right? So that is very important. And then in verse 2, he continues to say, Raja Vidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyakshavagam Dharmyam Pratyaksha Avagamam Dharmyam Susukham Kartum Avyayam. So this he says is the Raja Yoga, Raja Vidya, the king of all sciences or king of all knowledge. And it's the most profound. Pavitram idam uttamam. It purifies those who hear it. And this can be, this is in direct accordance with dharma, which means this knowledge is aligned to dharma. Or essentially, this is dharma. The knowledge of the self is dharma. Of course, he says easy to practice. Susukham, he's saying it easy to practice because he's previously laid out many prerequisites, if you will, right? And many prerequisites he has already laid out to say how should this person be to now receive this knowledge. Okay. Susukham kartum avyayam. So you can get to this, and it is avyayam. There's no end to this. There is no end to this. Once this knowledge sets in, there is no, see, it's very interesting because when this intellectual knowledge becomes experiential knowledge, it is not something that you will forget. See, intellectually what you've learned, you may forget. You will say that, oh, school, I remember I did surds. If I give you a surds equation, how many of us will be able to solve it? Or a differential equation? You forgot it because it's aparavidya. It is knowledge of the science. And then it is application, knowledge of application. So you apply it somewhere, you understand the nature of things, and then there's a possibility of you forgetting it. But Brahma Vidya is not a knowledge that one will forget. When he says everlasting, which means once the knowledge has become an experiential truth, then it is not like, ayo, 10 years ago I was self-realized. now now I have forgotten. Wait a second, sorry. So it's not something that, it's not a science or a knowledge that we gather, and then with the like, for example, if somebody has Alzheimer's, if a rishi has a self-realized rishi has Alzheimer's, will he forget that he's self-realized? He won't, because it's not that you have to remember. It's not something that we have to. Right now, a condition is we have to remind ourselves that Bhagavan is in me, I am in Bhagavan. All of this is anityam. It is only He who is permanent, everlasting. All of these things we have to remind. And then when we interact with people, we have to remind ourselves that of our mortality, as we spoke, right? All of these we have to remind ourselves in our engagement, and it's not become our nature. When it becomes our nature, which is what you notice in Mahan and saints and all of them, you'll see in their presence that the way they work, the way they engage, the way they interact itself is entirely spontaneous. It is entirely spontaneous, and the spontaneity does not is not from memory. It is their nature. It is the way they are. Okay. So what needs to happen to us is, slowly through this process, we have to come to a place where you say, this becomes my nature, which is why sadhana is extremely important. We listen to discourses, we listen to talks, we watch YouTube, we listen to Sankirtanam, we read books, study all of that. We have to constantly revel in this. Like Swami Vivekananda says, you have to dehypnotize ourselves. Right now, we are in a hypnosis. We are in a hypnosis of believing ourselves as an individual self that has no relationship with anything else. We are having to build these relationships, and the relationships that we build are the ones that have meaning, right? This is how we live our life. My mama, my macha, my husband, my wife, my child, my father, my mother, my brother, sister. These are the relationships that either we born with or we build. We think these are the relationships that we have to work with. We are unable to raise ourselves above this and see there is a much larger relationship that we have with the cosmic being. And Krishna is introducing that slowly. See, he's going to chapter, as he goes to chapter 11, where he'll do Vishwarupa Darshanam. He'll give Vishwarupa Darshanam to Arjuna. He's preparing the ground for that. Right? So he's saying, I'm going to give you this knowledge, O Arjuna. Be prepared to receive this. Ashraddadhana purushaha dharmasyasya parantapa aprapya mam nivartante mrityu samsara vartmani. So this is where he is saying those who have faith, those who don't have faith in this are unable to obtain to me. They repeatedly keep coming back to this world. Okay. Ashraddha, which means one who does not have Shraddha. Such people, now from where we see, this doesn't matter, right? Because what happens to somebody who does not have Shraddha is irrelevant right now, because as I said, we wouldn't know how many janmas we had earlier and how many janmas we are going to be born. We don't know. We have no idea. What we know for sure is in this janma, there is something that is prodding us, something that is nudging us to introspect, to investigate, to go deeper, to recognize a greater power that is existing and try to connect with it. All of this is happening in this janma. And we are exposed to scriptures, teachings, and all of that we are exposed to. So, this, if we are able to use this time to deepen this, then whatever happens is irrelevant. See, as long as your intentions are clear, as long as what we wanting to achieve in terms of what we call as moksha, liberation, peace, which is beyond suffering and all of that, as long as the intention is sharp, clear, and we keep working through that intently, without a break, consistently, because you're doing it for your own self, as long as we keep doing that, it doesn't matter number of births that we come back and go. It's something that's completely beyond our control. What Krishna is telling Arjuna is that sometimes you just have to give a little bit of a fear also, right? If somebody is saying that Ayo, I don't want to be born again, then Krishna is saying, then you do these things, no? Then you do the right things. Because if you don't, then you will keep coming back again and again. And Krishna is like, I am telling it. If you want to believe it, believe it. Right? But that's the fact. So then somebody is like, Ayyo, I don't want to keep coming back again and again, because I see a lot of suffering and I don't want to go through the suffering repeatedly. So then you go into this, right? So that is so he's introduced some verses of also trying to drive in some amount of urgency, as we were saying earlier, that some amount of urgency is also required for us to be able to, அந்த இதுல சொல்லுவா இங்கிலீஷ்ல ஒரு எக்ஸ்பிரஷன், கிக் இன் த பட் அப்படிம்பா. ஸோ சம்டைம்ஸ் யூ நீட் அ கிக். ஒரு பேக் சைடில் ஒரு உத விட்டா கொஞ்சம் டக்குன்னு கொஞ்சம் அடி முடிச்சுட்டு ஏதோ ஓகே அப்படி பண்ணுவோம்ல, அது மாதிரி these phrases are like that. And these phrases are true, but we wouldn't know whether I'm coming back again and again. You don't, it's not there in your experience right now. So when you're saying Krishna is telling something is not in my experience, Cheri care to go, just listen to it, because he knows better. Right? So that's in verse 3. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina matsthani sarva bhutani nachaham teshva avasthitah teshu avasthitah. So this one he is trying to say that this thing, manifestation that you see, Shakti, is pervaded by me in my unmanifest form, and all living beings are in me, but I am not in them. So this is one equation that is always used when we talk in Vedanta. You will say A equals B, but B is not equal to A. Which means A is Paramatma, B is Jivatma, or the whole creation. A is in B. So all A is in B, but you can't collect all the B's and say that it's equal to A. Because even in Purusha Suktam there is a line. It says, Pado osya vishva bhutani kripadasya divi. Only a quarter of me, of this Purusha, is in this manifest world. Pado osya vishva bhutani. In this Vishwa, in this Bhuta, in this Bhuta, this Vishwa, there is only Pada, only a quarter. Tripadasya amrutam divi. 3/4 is in a transcendental plane. This is a Veda Vakya. So we don't know, we can't say that. So this is what he is saying. I dwell in everything, but they don't dwell in me. Is to mean this, that does not constitute me. They don't dwell in me means they don't constitute me. It's like, for example, if the Suryan, because of Surya, because of Aditya Bhagavan, this whole planet is existing. There are plants, there are animals, there are worms, there are birds, there are human beings, everything is existing. At least the the diurnal beings, right? The beings of the day, they exist because of Surya. Night beings, nocturnal beings also is the heat that is, they require heat, some kind of heat that is captured during the day. They use the heat during the night. But this planet is existing because of that. But all of this put together in the planet, you cannot constitute the sun. Right? Even if Earth goes away, vanishes off into the into the galaxy somewhere, Surya will continue to burn and emit out his rays and give his energy out. So in the same way, this is the statement. It says everything is, I pervade everything. Like the Surya Bhagavan, Velicham Madri, like the light of Surya, I pervade everything, every creature, every aspect of this universe, but that does not exist in me. And then Nacha Matsthani Bhutani Pashyame Yogam Aishwaram. Look at my grandeur. Bhuta Bhrinnacha Bhutastha Mamatma Bhuta Bhavanaha. And says these beings that are existing by my power, that they don't exist in me. Behold the mystery of my divine energy. Behold, Yogam Aishwaram, my grandeur. Although I am the creator and the sustainer of all living beings, I am not influenced by them. And Bhuta Bhrinnacha Bhutastaha Mamatma Bhuta Bhavanaha. I am not disturbed by any of this. So, like for example, if the Earth goes out of orbit and flings away into the galaxy, some other part of the galaxy, is the Surya going to, or the sun going to care about it? Right? Even if all the 9 or the 10 grahas, planets, they fling out into the solar system, some or go out of orbit, Surya is not going to feel anything, because he is not dependent on them. They are dependent on him. So in the same way, the creation is dependent on the creator. It is not the other way. The creator is independent of the creation. That is what he's saying. I am independent of this creation. I means who? Paramatma. I means who? The creator. I means who? Brahman. I means who? The cosmic consciousness that is there. So now he's trying to show the grandeur of this particular cosmic being that we're talking about. Krishna is trying to establish this grandeur. Why? Why is this grandeur required to be established? So that the mind starts thinking much bigger than oneself. When do you get devotion? Only when you recognize or realize or acknowledge that there is something much greater than me. Then there is a sense of devotion that will come. Right? And devotion, which is why you go to Tirupati Venkateshwara, you see he is a 9 feet statue. So you see that tall structure and automatically a devotion varo. And which is why a lot of these structures, in fact, now there are a lot of huge statues that are built. India full on Adi Shankara in Omkareshwara, there is a Ramanuja, there is a Adi Yogi in Coimbatore, there is a Krishna ki innum perusa pandala. I think Krishna doesn't have a large statue yet.
எங்கேயோ பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கான்னு கேள்விப்பட்டேன். இந்த சங்கு சக்கரத்தோட அப்படியே.
அப்படியா? That will be awesome.
I saw read somewhere that they are making.
See,
நார்த்ல தான் எங்கேயோ பண்றான்னு கேள்விப்பட்டேன்.
oh, that will be interesting. That will be wonderful to see. And then you have there's actually a temple in Tambaram in Chennai called Skandashramam. All the deities there, it is built by a Swamiji by name Swami Shantananda, the same name as my guru, but is a different Swamiji. Judge Swamigal, I don't know if you know of Judge Swamigal of Pudukottai Peetham, Bhuvaneshwari Peetham. So he is of that Peetha, and he is established an ashrama, Skandashramam temple in Tambaram and probably one or two other places. If you go to that temple, you will see huge statues, towering. Bhadrakali, when you go in, you'll see Bhadrakali really huge. Chakratharvar, the Sudarshan Chakratharvar will be huge. Like the Nanganallur Hanuman, huge. So that grandeur is required for the human mind to submit in some kind of devotion. To think that this is so much larger than me. I am like this. This is so much bigger than me. It's not contained in that form, but it gives you an experience that, whoa, right? So that experience he is trying to now slowly introduce into Arjuna. And the last verse for today, Yatha kashi sthito nityam vayu sarvatra go mahan tatha sarvani bhutani matsthani ityupadharaya. So he says, the way how air moves about in Akasha, in space, all of this moves in me. Yatha akasha sthita nityam vayu sarvatra gah mahan. It blows everywhere. Tatha sarvani bhutani matsthani iti upadharaya. Know that all of these exist in me in the way the air moves in space. Is space impacted by the air? Whether air moves north, west, east, south, or it is hot air, cold air, dusty air, sandstorm Dubai in a few weeks. It is air with sandstorm or air with flooding, storm water, tornado air. It doesn't matter. That space there is unimpacted. So it says, in that way, I am the container. And all of this is contained. It does not impact me. So what it means to say is there is something within me. There is something inside me, which I recognize as this Atma or this association with Paramatma that is there within me as this consciousness. This is the same. It is the same principle that is not impacted by my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions, my bodily condition, nothing. This thing within me that is sitting silently and observing, the Sakshi which is within me, does not really care about what I think, what I feel, nothing. Because that is the truth. All of this is psychological drama in our heads. So அது வேடிக்கை பார்க்கும் அவ்வளவுதான். So the only way to get out of suffering is to remove our association from the psychological drama and associate ourselves to this unchanging container that is ever observing, ever watching. Like the beautiful, I'll close with this. There's this beautiful in Mundaka Upanishad, there is a story of two birds. One bird is sitting on a higher branch, the other bird is sitting on a lower branch. The bird on the higher branch is doing nothing. It is just sitting and observing. It is observing the little other bird is sitting on the lower branch. The lower branch bird, it is jumping from one branch to another. It is eating a fruit. It will find it sweet. It will eat it nicely. Then it will go to another branch, pick up another fruit. It will be sour. Then it will not like it. It will spit it out. So it will keep doing this back and forth, jumping from one branch to the other, trying to taste a fruit. And it will keep looking at this bird sitting on the top, nothing doing, just observing. So the Upanishad goes to say that within us, both are there, the Paramatma and the Jivatma. The Jivatma keeps jumping around. This I want to do, that I want to do. This happened, that happened, this thing, that thing. You eat sweet, you feel happy. You eat salt, you feel bad. You eat something sour. You go all through all of this, and there is this beautiful Antaryami Paramatma sitting there observing. He's saying, I'll see till you keep jumping, dancing. I'll wait till you automatically come to your point of resolution. Right? So, this is what Krishna is trying to point out to Arjuna and us. Right? So, we will close with this today. Om Kayena Vacha Manasendriyerva Buddhyatmana Va Prakrite Svabhavat Karomi Yatyat Sakalam Parasmai Narayanayeti Samarpayami Sadashivayeti Samarpayami Jagadambikaye iti Samarpayami Satgurunathayeti Samarpayami Hari Om Tat Sat Gurubhyo Namah. Deva. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, Guruji.
Hari Om ji. Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari Om.
Thank you.
Hari Om, Allah.
Hari Om.